Welcome to the Fit for Halter podcast. We're here to bring practical content and community to the amateur halter exhibitor. I'm your host, Amy Zabel, and I interview people from across the halter horse industry. We'll learn new techniques, hear about the hottest products, and get to know one another. If you grow in your knowledge and we gain more exhibitors in the ring, this has been a success. It's a laid-back environment. Prepare to be inspired and maybe take some notes. Welcome to the Fit for Halter podcast. In this episode, we have some trainer friends who are from various parts of the horse industry. We're having a roundtable discussion about the halter horse and hearing multiple perspectives on not only breaking the halter horse to ride, but how halter-bred horses can have a successful future in the performance. So we're going to take a minute to let everybody introduce themselves. Lindsay, can we start with you?
Yeah, my name is Lindsay Black. I am located in Indianola, Iowa, so just south of Des Moines, about 20 minutes from Breeders' Halter Futurity, which is super convenient. Married to my husband, Chris. We've been married for 20 years. We have a 14-year-old son who's playing football. They both show the halter horses with me and do a little bit of riding as well. My business, I do halter horses, break some halter horses to ride, also do some Western pleasure and all-arounders as well.
All right. Thank you. How about you, Jeremy?
I'm Jeremy Rosheisen, JR Performance Horses. I'm in Woodstock, Illinois. Do a little of everything when it comes to the horse world. Break some halter horses to ride, Western pleasure, hunter under saddle. Little of all of it. Colt breaking, ranch horses, few problem horses here and there. Kind of wherever the road takes.
All right. And Todd?
Todd Grant, Claire, Oklahoma. Rose and I and Tag, we kind of do the halter horses for our mainstay and dabble with some other stuff, the ranch and the roping and just whatever it takes to kind of make a living.
All right. Thank you all for being here. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, you're fine.
Thanks to all of you for taking time to invest in our audience. So let's start with telling us a bit about your background and specifically how you started breaking halter horses to ride.
I can go first.
Okay.
So my background, grew up showing 4-H. Mom had me on a horse when I was 2 weeks old. That was the only way that she could get me to go to sleep. So Dad would take me out and hand me to Mom. So being on the back of a horse is more comfortable for me than walking. Walking, I'm likely to roll my ankle and get hurt. But when I'm on the top of the horse, that's where I'm safe at. The halter horses, I did mostly riders. My husband fell in love with the halter horses when we started dating way back when. So that's when I kind of transitioned to the halter horses more. But I get really bored during the winter with just halter horses. So everything, we just started about 10 years ago. I just started saddling everything as soon as we got done with fall futurities and world shows that were old enough and just started riding them. And it's been a really easy venture for me to go into.
I'll go next. So I kind of grew up in 4-H, came up through the 4-H ranks, did the open show stuff for a while, kind of branched into some smaller breed show stuff. Really didn't know much about halter horses at that point in time, except they were big beefcakes that didn't ride. Got the opportunity to work at a very large breeding farm / show facility. And that's kind of where I got introduced to breaking the halter horses to ride. They had several studs that in the off season, those studs were given a job. They were ridden, ponied with saddles on and then ridden. And some of the older ones, we actually even ponied younger horses off of. And then show horses at the end of the year after the Congress and the World Show, we would get some of them broke to ride and get them riding around or whatever, just for other jobs. And a couple of the stallions that they had actually went on and had very successful under saddle careers. And one is still out there raising really good halter babies. And at the same time, he's got babies that are doing really well in other pens too. And I just kind of carried that on after I left that place and continued on out on my own with my own business. I find value in, kind of getting the halter horses broke to ride and giving them a job and see the benefit of it. And, I explain that to my customers and we kind of do what we can with them.
Yeah. What about you, Todd?
I kind of grew up in Canada. My parents weren't really involved with the horses, and went to a little trail ride deal and kind of got hooked on the horses and worked for a man when I was real young named Brock McCauley. He's passed on now, but he had halter horses, he had reiners, he had all of it. And when I don't know, 16, 17, went to work for Tom Robertson and kind of spiraled from there, and Charlie Dobbs, and just stayed hooked and progressed from there.
Yeah.
For not really knowing anything about him to trying to learn everything. It's been very good.
So does somebody want to speak to maybe some of the differences in training a halter bred horse to ride versus a performance horse, breaking a performance horse to ride?
I mean, I don't know how to say it right, but like when I left Ted's and we kind of went on my own, like there was all those Mr. Conclusions out of those Pussy Bonanza mares Joe had, and the Zip to Impresses, and it was kind of a thing, like you took them horses and they were big, pretty horses, and it wasn't so specialized maybe as it is today, but they were big, strong, handsome animals, and you wanted to ride them. I mean, they were just nice horses, and you just give them a job and they would go do something. If they didn't look like you wanted to ride them, why would you ride them? But then one standing around, kind of like survival, you rode them because you could make a living and you could sell them, and they go on and do things, and it just made sense.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, I don't know.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think there are some, kind of nuances to breaking a halter horse to ride versus a riding horse. I will say the consistent handling on the ground makes them super easy, and they're pretty go with the flow and chill about everything when it comes to all that stuff. I think Todd did touch a little bit on how it's kind of gotten a little more specialized. Maybe the little older bloodlines weren't quite this way, but some of the more modern bloodlines, I think the halter horses are a little more busy-minded. They need that job. They have to go out and they have to work. Once you start kind of taking them beyond just walk, trot, canter, and circles, it can get a little more complex at times when you're trying to handle that mindset that's constantly trying to go somewhere and do something. But all in all, they're really, horses are all the same. They've all got 4 legs, 4 feet, a head and a tail. So you learn to work with the horse and not make the horse work for you. And once you figure that out, you're pretty much good to go.
That's good.
For me, I think halter horses, there's no difference in how you start them versus performance horses. You do all the same basic stuff. I mean, the saddling, the sacking out. I have noticed that the halter horses tend to take a lot of that easier, especially the ones that have been shown. They've had neck sweats on, they've been ponied, they've, been on walkers, they've been lunged. So a lot of the groundwork and basics are already done for you. It's just the getting on. I mean, I don't know about Jeremy and Todd, but I know a lot of people just start saddling long yearlings, and that's what I do around here. I mean, as soon as we get done, all the yearlings get the saddles on. That way, once they're ready to climb on, it's a very easy process, and it's no different than with the performance horses. As far as from the get-go, and I think Jeremy and Todd both said, they're big, pretty horses. People look great on them. They love them. It's unfortunate, the stigma that surrounds today's industry, that these horses can't ride, because they have great futures. I mean, my son's riding a 2-year-old halter. That was his project for the summer. That's what he chose to do. I said, what do you want to ride? What do you want to learn on? And he picked a little halter mare that didn't make the show pen, but she's perfect. And she's going to make an awesome kids horse for him.
So
It's, it's about finding it's not a stigma that they won't do certain things. I mean, maybe I'm not saying that right, but them horses have a purpose. Just like Lindsay said, it's whatever level. Them things, they're just horses. I mean, I don't know how to say it right, but they're horses. I mean, give them a job, and whether they go to the Congress and show in the versatility classes, or they stay at home and go trail ride. I mean, them horses have a purpose. They're just animals. I mean, give them a job.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they don't know that they were specially bred to be a halter horse, so they can go on and they can do other things.
Yeah, it's just a matter of in today's world. I mean, this stuff's real. I mean, you can't take a hybrid one and go in the cow horse deal because it's not supposed to. But give that horse a job and give a person a realistic avenue for these animals, and they can go home and enjoy them. Whether it's trail riding or barrel racing or what have you. I mean, there's several here that are some fancy bred animals that they're making nice horses. I mean, it might not be, and we all live in a world we have high expectations, but there's them horses. Give them a job, give them a purpose, and they'll do better. And if they don't like a job, don't give them that job. Teach them another one, or do something different. I mean, they're just animals. I mean, you know what I'm trying. I don't know how to say it right, but there's a spot for all these things. Like Lindsay said, like her son's enjoying hers. I mean, take that halter horse stigma off them, and I mean, they're just animals. Saddle them and go do something.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's not just the halter horses, but I've always said that when it comes to your goals with the horses, you can either change your goals or change your horse. So like Todd said, they can go on and they can do whatever. There are plenty of ways that a halter horse can go out and have we'll call it a secondary job after the halter pen. They just have to find the right person. The right person needs to give them a chance to go on and do that. You do see halter horses that, like he said, they're not going to win the cow horse deal, but there are some that are cowy enough that they can go and do the ranch horse cow classes. There are some that can trail ride. We know that there have been some that can go on and do really well in the hunt seat and the pleasure pens. I mean, you look at one of Beth Case's, I believe, first Congress champions was aboard a Palomino, I think it was, by Mr. Yellowfella. So they can go on and have other jobs. They just need the opportunity.
There's a horse named E Fabulous. He had points in from everything. He did everything. Hunter hack, everything to cutting. True Blue Bayou. He missed and thank you to Dustin Rogers for doing the work, and Bobby Lewis, and them guys rode that horse. That was a nice head horse. And Dustin missed going to the finals at the World Show by 2 or 3 points for some baubles that are not in the ranch trail. That a good horse that was bred to do the job would have the same baubles. Just give them a job, give them a purpose, and like Vital Signs Are Good's mother was a halter mare. Certain Vino was a halter mare. Like, these horses have a purpose. Like the worst thing we can say is, oh, here comes a halter horse. I mean, them horses, if you treat them like horses, they'll be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a matter of what your expectations are.
I've got a really good friend that has a 3-year-old mare. The mama is impressive bred, and the sire is the last detail. And I don't know. I mean, I know who did that cross. I don't know what they were thinking when they did it, but this mare is huge, beautiful, and incredible minded, coming out of an all halter bred mama. And at 3, she's won Buckskin World in the hunt seat. They've done the hunter in hand. She ponies with her. I mean, This mare is 17.2, if not a little taller now, and she rides her down the gravel road. Like she saw the talent in her, was scared to death to buy her when she did because she's NH. And I said, I got you there. Find someone you know that has the education to educate you instead of being scared of, what their paperwork may say. And, after she got over that, oh my goodness, she's Halter bred and she's NH. It's just been amazing watching them progress and come together.
I mean, like we know several horses in the pleasure that have been done extremely well to spectacular that are NH. Out of Daughters of Zip to Impress and Mister and that Mister and Pussy Bonanza Cross and all them horses, they've all went on and done good. Zip to Impress, if you pull him up, I mean, I don't know, but that horse did a tremendous job with the pleasure stuff. And I mean, I know it's a new time and a new era, and I'm not saying our Halter horses can go do what these modern day horses are doing, but at some point they have to put structure back in them. I mean, they have to have that strong top.
I agree. I think that Lindsay touched on, like, find someone to give you the education that you need with the horses instead of just being scared of it. I think that's a big one. I feel like halter horses can get pigeonholed as not able to do things because of HYPP and PSSM. And we have to be realistic. We have to admit that, yes, that can factor in sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it does factor into the conversation. We have to be a little more willing to get out there and teach people that, it's not a death sentence. It doesn't mean the end of the world. You just have to learn how to manage. I do think from the riding side of it that sometimes people are a little lazy, might be harsh, but they do want to be a little bit more lazy, and they don't want to have to put in the maybe a little bit extra time and management that comes to manage those things. So they just skip over what is otherwise a good horse because it's got that H or that PSSM positive note on its papers. But the opportunity is still there. I mean, a good horse is a good horse. And if a horse has PSSM, but it's going to fit the job, there's no reason that somebody should be so scared of it that they walk the other way and then just complain that they can't find a horse. I mean, we have to approach that education side of the conversation more and really get it out there that these horses can do the job. They just need the opportunity to do it and prove themselves.
And you keep touching on the PSSM, but that's just not a halter horse thing. Them things.
Oh, absolutely. It's an everything one.
It's an element. Yeah. But I get what you're saying, though. I mean, it's just a management issue, and I don't know how to. It don't matter, but it's just a matter of management and take care of it. And there's a spot for everybody. It's do you buy? Go ahead. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, but what I'm trying to say is like, so you look at some of the most famous all-around horses and pleasure horses and whatnot, and you go back third generation, it's pretty strong halter horse base. It's not the pleasure horses. It's not the halter horses. We've all pigeonholed ourselves into a set of genetics. At some point, we have to have an outcross. And
yeah, absolutely.
Horse, or it's a cow horse, or it's a rope horse, or it's a goat tie down horse. It don't matter. At some point, there has to be an outcross because the cutters got too small. This isn't big enough. At some point, your genetics have to expand. And this horse might sell in the halter, but it don't make him a bad horse to cross over onto maybe a pleasure horse or a hunt seat horse. You at some point you have to put the structure back into the all around events, because and you keep breeding a type to a type. At some point it stops. I don't know the real words for it, but at some point those genetics stop working. You have to have a cross at some point, whether it's a halter horse, a thoroughbred, a Hanoverian. It don't matter. At some point, you have to put something different in there to keep the good traits of the pleasure horses, the halter horses, or what have you. At some point, you have to put an outcross in, because you can only breed your mother and your father to your sons and daughters for so long before it don't work.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if I'm saying that right. I mean, I'm just trying to figure it all out myself, but at some point there has to be something different in there to make it all work.
Mm-hmm.
And
as an amateur, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Amy.
I was just going to say, as an amateur owner who doesn't have experience in a lot of the things you guys are talking about, it does make sense. I appreciate what you said, Todd, about when you keep breeding a type to a type, at some point you have to bring something else in there. I feel like a lot of our guests have talked about the benefit of the outcross, and maybe we need a whole episode on understanding what that means. But yeah, I think you're nailing it on the head. Are there any other misconceptions that we haven't touched on that you feel like people need to know about?
Sometimes people think the ones that have won in the halter pen are too bulky to go on to do anything else. And I think there is a very distinct difference between halter weight and performance riding horse weight. So a lot of these horses that we show successfully when they're young, as soon as we retire them from the halter show pen, we can strip some of that weight off of them. And, it keeps their joints a little healthier, makes them move freer, and they are able to do a lot more that they can't do when they're carrying all that extra finish weight. Mm-hmm. But, and Todd said, find a horse, find what they're good at, and roll with it. It's not a hard concept to do, and more people should. And I think BHF and WCHA are trying to give us the opportunity to ride some of these horses to show that they can do other things. And I think, in the beginning, I think they thought that if we had these classes, it would make the horses worth more. And I think that was a misconception. I think it gives them a future, somewhere to go. Whether you sell it to a little kid to grow up to be a 4-H horse, or you keep it for your pony horse, you rope on it, like so many of them have a future that we just don't allow them to do it. And these programs are available, and more people need to take advantage of them before we lose them. I mean, we almost lost the WCHA ranch riding this year due to a lack of interest in it. We got it back for the year. But if it doesn't continue and grow, we won't have it in the future, which is really unfortunate, because they've tried to give us an avenue to do these things. And I know Jeremy's had a lunge liner and a rider in the past. I think, Todd, you guys are bringing a rider this year, I think, to WCHA. Yeah. So we just need more people to branch out and do it. And I know more people are riding their halter horses at home. They just aren't bringing them to compete, which I don't know how to make that happen. I think that's a topic of conversation, how to get the interest sparked to get people to participate in these programs, because they're giving us the opportunity to have them. So how do we keep them?
I agree. Like, everything you're saying is true. And it's hard for me. I'm a big fat man. I'm not going to ride very many anymore. I'm going to ride my pony horse. And it comes to the point where you have a good horse, and then you got to pay somebody else to do it, and send them out there. And because them guys that ride good, they feed good, they tend to them horses good. Let them guys take home and ride them. We did it with Kevin Shaw. We've done it with Mike Keller, Dustin Rogers, Bobby Lewis. Them guys all took tremendous care of them horses. And when we got to the horse show, they rode good, and we could still show them in the halter. Did I have to step back and not get that monthly income? Sure. But it made my customer happy. and they enjoyed it. Angie, that True Blue Bio, she won a lot of money at that WCHA deal. Rado's done tremendous, and it's a matter of stepping back and doing what's best for your horse and your customer, and it worked good. Like, I don't know how to say it right, but them and Kevin Shaw, he stepped in there and showed that roan horse and done great things with him. But when we went to the horse show, when we went to the halter part of it, there were still good horses. They still weren't won titles. They still did good. And them guys were riding them. Like, them guys put forth the effort and made them horses. Yeah, it was like the roan horse was third in the age studs and won the performance. And them guys were riding him every day. And I had to step back, but it fulfilled what those guys, those futurities, WCHA, the Breeders' Halter Futurity, they are allowing us to do more with these animals, to give us different avenues to sell them and provide for our families and make our customers happy. And it's a matter about of taking it upon yourself and letting other people help you to do well. And I think we're supposed to do that. That might be, I don't know if that's come out right, but you branch off to other people, and you're dealing with guys like those guys I mentioned and stuff, and it opens up your whole spectrum to a different set of people, to them guys that maybe don't normally jack with a halter horse. Hey, this wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. So they have 2 or 3 more horses. And you're making your futurities better. You're supporting the WCHA. You're supporting the Breeders' Halter Futurity, and them horses are doing well. And I don't know what I'm trying. It makes everything better for everyone, because you open yourself up to you meet other people's customers. You have more fun, and it gives avenues to do well. I mean, there's no downside to trying. You go out there and try, and it's okay. And they're all not going to work. That's just part of life. But at some point, it's going to work. Against Barado, he won the performance studs, and he was second or third in the.
He won the age studs too.
And they won the age studs, and then he's a superior horse. And if somebody would have put forth the effort, that horse was a good horse. I mean, he run. Like, he could go do anything. And we've all had horses like that are good horses that maybe don't suit the pedigree, don't suit the job description, but they go ahead and do the job.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I'm trying to say, like,
yeah.
And I think that's what you hit really well on, the fact that we need to be less shut in, and we need to be a little more inclusive, and we need to talk more. We need to branch out more and get the conversation started and get out there and be like, I do have these horses that need other jobs, and they are kind of a cool mover, or they are kind of athletic, and I think you'd enjoy this horse and you need to at least try it. We just kind of have to get that conversation started. And like you said, talk to those people, open those doors, and get horses kind of moving. I've seen a lot of horses now, not necessarily at the World Show, Congress, BHF, WCHA level, but I've started a lot of halter horses that go on and have great trail riding and open show careers. And I think that is kind of an untapped market, or it could really use a lot more horses at that level, because I remember a couple years ago having kind of a discussion on halter horses and specifically prices. A gentleman said that he can sell a yearling, 2-year-old, 3-year-old halter horse for less money because he made all his money back when he won with it in the show pen. So he was willing to, quote unquote, take a loss when he sold it. Instead of getting $15,000 for it, he'd sell it for $3,500 because he made $20,000 in the show pen. he was able to put those horses into homes where somebody might not be able to afford a performance bred horse, but they now have a horse that they're going to go on, take and ride, and that horse is going to go on and do really well in the open show pen. We need more of that. That's a stepping stone. Open shows are stepping stones for everyone. I mean, you look at any of the big name performance horse trainers that are out there, and they'll all tell you that they started showing at 4-H and open shows.
Yeah.
Now they're at the top of the game, but they all started there. We have to get more horses in at that level, and then I think it will really take off into other levels and kind of build from there. We need a better foundation, I guess is my point.
I mean, that's good. I mean, if like you just said, there's a spot, like there's them horses that they might not be for you or me or our top end part of it, but don't make them a bad horse. There's no such thing as a bad. I mean, yeah, there is bad horses, but you know, but if you take a nice horse and he kind of fits the bill, like, and I'm not gonna lie, there's Halter horses you don't want to ride. Like, why would you look at one and you go, why would I want to ride that? Don't ride it, because it's not going to enjoy it and you're not going to enjoy it. But there's a lot of the Halter horses that just need a little put forth the effort. You know, and it's the same in every industry. I mean, you don't want to ride this type of bred horse because you don't get along with it. Don't make it a bad horse. It just doesn't need it at your house. You know, like, I don't know what I'm trying. Give them things a job, and there's people craving them horses. That if they're broke and gentle and go ride, they're going to go to the weekend deal, have a great time, enjoy themselves, win the halter, be third in the pleasure, be seventh in the trail. They're going to take it next weekend. They're going to go trail riding and have a great time.
Yeah, they've been all over showing as weanlings, yearlings, 2-year-olds, so that they're used to seeing all that different stuff, and they don't care about it. They've been exposed to so much they don't care. So yeah, they sell to that somebody that wants to go do all that on the weekend stuff, and they're happy as a clam because the horse could care less. It did its job. The exhibitor got to have fun. Yeah, just get out and give them a job, put them to work.
You're gonna cook hot dogs, drink cold beer, and have a good time, and go trail ride.
Absolutely.
And that's part of it. I mean, there's some expense getting it there, but it's going to bring more doing that than wholesaling it. I mean, go enjoy them animals. They're horses. It don't matter how they're bred; they are horses. And if you can't, the whole thing is just give it a job. Somebody will buy it if you give it a job.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the other side of that coin is you just got to put forth the effort to do it, whether it's me or you or Jim down the road. I mean, give them things a job. There's enough of them kids want a job. They'll go ride them things for nothing, and they'll get broke. I mean, if you long enough, they're going to get broke.
Well, and if we put in the legwork as trainers and owners and everything, and then, somebody doesn't buy them, they should still have a place in our program because we've done the legwork to make them fit in. So I'm not a gilding person. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not a gilding person, but I've got a 3-year-old that I've been riding since last December. And I've got a bunch of little kids in the barn, and they're like, what's going to happen to Ted after the shows? And I'm like, well, I'm probably going to sell him. So now I have a 5-year-old little girl and a 10-year-old little girl that will sit in my hallway and bawl their eyes out because they're afraid Ted is going to leave. And 3 years old, 16-1, sired by intentions out of a statutory mare, I think. He's big, sorrel, nothing flashy, but he rides around cute. We lunge the little 5-year-old girl. She's just learning to ride. Like, that's her lesson horse now. And she's going to do the junior youth halter class at BHF with them. And I mean, this is a family that's never had halter horses. It's the family that does sets up the laser engraving at Breeders' Halter Fraternity. She was one of my 4-H kids growing up when I was a 4-H leader, and now her daughter's 5 and they don't have something for her to ride. So I'm like, bring her over. I don't have anything super broke here because we always sell them once they're broke. But I've got these kids that are pulling this 3-year-old gelding out, brushing him, cross tying him, crawling underneath him. He works cattle. He works donkeys. You can throw a rope off of him. Like he's got the basics to go and do anything. And if nobody buys him for what I want, I'll use him for a lesson horse and a pony horse. I mean, I've done my legwork so he fits in if he doesn't fit what anybody else wants him for.
That horse will make you a living as a lesson horse.
Absolutely.
Them young kids coming in, it just opens up an avenue to where you can make a decent living giving lessons off of him. And he'll live at your house till he's 15 years old and make more money than a lot of show horses will.
Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, just do the work. That's all it comes down to. Everybody
sorry about that. You have, all of you have talked about giving the horses a job and transitioning them, talked about a lot of misconceptions. Let's talk for a little bit about when it comes to riding. So you've got a halter horse, it's either the off season or even during the show season. Do you have to make any modifications to your equipment? Help our listeners understand how to keep a saddle on a halter horse that's all muscled in the withers. A couple of those thoughts about the actual riding of a halter horse coming off the show season.
Well, for me, I have 15 different saddles in the tack room. So kind of with different gullet sizes and just making sure you have one that fits them and doesn't slide. I think that's the basis with any horse, not just halter horses, because I think some of those rope horses can get pretty blocky across their backs too. And, just making sure you have the proper equipment. I don't know that there's necessarily any modifications I take. I normally like to put back cinches on them so they get used to that. So if that's the route they go in the future, and then if they do decide to buck, the saddle doesn't pop up as high. So, I think I just do the same thing as everything else. I grab a bridle off the wall, I grab a saddle I think will fit, and it's trial and error from there.
Okay.
Their horses saddle and pull your back cinch and go on. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, they're not plotting against you. I mean, so what? They're bigger. I mean, just pull that thing down a little tighter, and they'll be fine. They're not a different species. I mean, they're still a horse, and just saddle them things and go. And they might be fresh, or they might be a little fresher than most, but you give them things a job, they go to work. I mean, just pull the back cinch and go on. And
throw a breast collar on.
Huh?
I'll throw a breast collar on sometimes. That kind of keeps things from rolling a little too much. But like you said, pull your girth up tight and go.
I mean, they're not plotting against you. And if they're plotting against you, they're criminals. So get a new job.
That quote's going on Facebook later. They're not plotting against you. They're not criminal. I love it. It's good stuff.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, like when I went on my own, I mean, and I worked for some of the best guys in the business, and then them guys were legends, and some of them horses were safer on them than on the ground. And it just go give them things a job. Like, it's not hard. Everybody, all their halter horses, they can't do this, they can't do that. Some of them can't. I mean, I'm not going to say they can't. Structurally, they can't. But for the most part, them things, just give them a job, and they'll be fine. Whether it's
one of the reasons.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, my 2-year-old stud is a perfect example of what Todd is saying. He is mouthy when you're on the ground next to him, but you put a bit in his mouth, and I still ride him. I mean, even though we're getting ready for halter stuff, I ride him a couple times a week just because it's good for his brain. I mean, it gives him something to do other than run around in circles and stand in his stall. So, I mean, shoot. Last week, I looked at my husband and said, "How broke do you think he is?" And he looked at me and went, "What are you going to make me do?" And I threw him up on their bareback. And, it was more entertainment purposes, but the stud tolerated it, and shoot, even at the Supreme show in May, I threw a saddle on his back and worked him at the show with it on. just kind of, keeps their brains active when you do something else with them too. And I think if you take them out of circles and, pony them and take them down the road and through I'm lucky here. I've got a road that's not super heavy traveled and some timber that I can go ride through. And man, as soon as they're safe enough, we like to get them out and just go see the world. And, they think better, they look, then they come back and they're just much happier horses, I think.
Mm-hmm. If I'm
We're
actively
getting on them when they're still a little closer to show weight, they don't buck or try and buck near as hard, because I don't know about you guys, but I've never met a fat man that really wanted to work all that hard.
Hey, I'm a
And the horses aren't much different.
I'm a fat man, so I'm a fat man. I ain't gonna fight. I mean,
And they're the same way. I mean, they might try and buck, and it might feel big because you're sitting on 1,400 pounds, but you go back and look at the cell phone video, and their feet came like 6-8 inches off the ground, and they try that kind of crap a few times, and they realize that it's way too much work, and they're like, all right, well, what's next? So.
And if they do want to buck, there's enough young kids out there that I've got a ranch bronc saddle rider that lives 20 minutes from me, and a couple this winter that just wanted to buck pretty hard. I called him and he got bucking practice in, and after about the second ride, they all decided that was way too much work. And then I didn't have to have Austin back, and I just took over. He's 20 years younger than me. He's going to bounce a lot better. So it worked out well.
So what about the horse that's actively showing? Is there any reason? Does the riding change the body too much? If I'm thinking I'm going to show my halter horse, but I also want to ride it during the show season, is there any reason to minimize the riding because it would have a negative effect on the halter look that I'm trying to accomplish? Not sure I'm explaining that correctly, but I'm wondering about my actively showing halter horse, and I've got him fit and he's looking big and round and ripped. Is there any reason to avoid for the look of the halter horse? Not necessarily because I'm thinking he can't do two jobs, but anybody catching what I'm trying to throw here?
I mean, what's the worst case scenario? So you're riding him for the allotted time and you're doing your job. So he's got the saddle on. What's the worst case? You're sweating his withers and he pops a bigger wither. I mean, it's if you're feeding good, if he's a little skinny, feed him more. If he's a little fat, feed him less. What's the worst case scenario? You're out there having a good time, enjoying your horse, and that saddle's going to make his wither better, his top line better, all that stuff. What's the difference? I mean, you weigh 110 pounds, 108 pounds, whatever. I mean, I don't.
That's so sweet of you.
I mean, I don't weigh that much, but I mean, for the weight difference, I mean, what's the difference? Whether you're ponying him off a horse, a golf cart, or you're lunging him. I mean, so what's the worst case scenario? You accidentally pop a bigger wither on him? I mean, there's no downside to it. Enjoy the son of a gun. You own him. He's yours. Enjoy him. Yeah. And so don't ride him for 2 hours. Ride him for an hour. I mean, or 30 minutes, whatever. It ain't going to change nothing. Feed him more or feed him less.
Or, like I'm doing with the 2-year-old stud. I ride him a couple days a week. It's good for his brain. I don't fit him any different. If I rode him every day, I'd probably up his speed a little bit. I don't think there's any contraindications. We can make a horse use their body and find different muscles on their back than we can when we're lunging or ponying anyways. So I think there's probably more benefits than hindrances from riding them while you're fitting them. I just don't think it's the common practice.
And the common practice I don't think people have enough time to ride one.
Yep.
That's a good point.
Riding's bad. Riding's great, but you can't do 25 head and ride every one.
No,
it's not possible. I mean, it's possible, I guess, if you can afford to have enough of them kids around, or that's all you got to do all day. But riding's not bad. I think a time restraint's worse than is the answer more so than riding them. Because honestly, riding them probably be the best thing for them.
That's a really good point.
I think it's a time restraint. We can't have a business in Excel and ride 25 head or 30 head a day. I mean, number one, our bodies ain't going to do it. And number two, it's just a matter of having the staff around capable of not jeopardizing these, because they cost real money. And, it's a matter, you can't afford to have staff around to ride them halter horses. Because them guys that aren't going to hurt one are doing different events. So I think that's a big. I think riding. I mean, I don't know, but I think at some point, I think that's why we went away from riding a halter horse. Is a time thing.
Well, and I think. Oh, I was going to say, I think once you get them broke enough too, and you don't have to do the lunging before you get on, and you can, treat them like any other performance horse, pull them out of the stall, saddle them up, go long trot them, swing their head side to side, get them limber, ride for 20 minutes, pull your saddle and end on a good note and put them away. I mean, it's from point A to point B where I think a lot of people lack, and that's where the majority of the time constraints come in. Sure. And especially for all of us this time of year, whether it's the performance trainers going from, NSBA to Congress and, us, we all went from the Pinto and the Yellow Rose fraternity, and now we're sliding into fall stuff. It's strictly a time constraint. Like, that's why I try to get mine kind of broke in the winter. So then when it comes during show season, if it's one I want to ride, I can throw a saddle on, go, I can ride that day, and it doesn't take the extra time. But, I pick my few favorite ones, and those are the ones that I typically continue to ride all year long. The good movers, like any discipline. I want to ride ones that are good movers. It's not worth my time to ride one that's not a good mover of any discipline.
I think like Todd said, kind of going back to Amy's original question, I think like Todd said, if you're going to ride one, what's the worst could happen is it gets a little skinny. It's going to be more, the more you ride one, the more it's going to kind of develop that lean muscle as compared to being big and round and curvy in all the right places. You just got to use common sense. If it gets skinny, you feed it more. If it gets fat, you feed it less. You just got to pay attention to the horse and kind of give the horse what it needs, and you'll be all right. Just go out, give it a job, and have fun.
So transitioning to some of your experiences with using a halter bred horse in a riding discipline, does anybody have a success story or like kind of a surprise story of a halter bred horse that's done really well in a performance discipline?
I think there's a lot of them out there.
There's more than you think.
Classic edition.
Yeah.
Intersection.
I mean, so just start off the top. You got Inspirado, Tribu BIU, Classic Edition, Done It With a Clue. I mean, them horses have all done good things. I mean, they're superiors in multiple events. I mean, there's a lot of horses that have done good. I mean, it's just a matter of finding the right owner that will put up with all the extra that goes with it at our level. Like, and that's not the right word. It just, I mean, there's been tons of them. And before us, I mean, there was, Bobby Lewis with all them diversified. I mean, there's a lot of horses that have done good. I mean, tons of them.
Yeah.
It's not a secret. I mean, what do you think, Lindsay?
Oh, no, I think there's lots of them out there. I mean, all of them you named, and, I think there's, just like you guys are roping and doing the ranch stuff on the Urge one, like he's got a future doing something there. The Ex-Occasion horse that I rode a couple years ago.
That's a badass horse.
Fancy legged. Like, he is so cool. And Ken let me ride him for a couple years, and that was right when AQHA changed the performance halter rule too. So, I could take him his whole 3-year-old year. We'd go show some ranch riding, go show performance halter, have fun. And then he went on to be a breeding stud. But, like that's one that's he's gonna put riders on the ground as well as halter horses.
It's a matter of them guys, and we're dealing and you have like the Headleys, they're breeding them great studs to those great mares, and they're trying to do an outcross for us, and we're all participating in the Headleys are a good example. They're trying, they're putting forth the effort, and it's a matter of making the general public acceptable to an outcross. Because in the last, and Jeremy, you know this, there's and Lindsay, you do too. You get pigeonholed into a set. This is going to do this, and this is going to do that. But you have to have that ultimate, like, and I'm a little biased because of that base stud. I mean, he's second generation thoroughbred, one of the greatest producing mares and show mares ever walked, and I think if that horse was in more stuff, he would have more, more sons and daughters showing, but back in the day, like before it was so specialized, the Dale Livingstons, the Doug Lillies, the Bobby Lewises, the Matlock Roses, they took what was sent to them and they give that son of a gun a job. And they excelled at them. I don't know how to say it correctly, but and I think today, I don't think certain types of horses will win the halter. Certain horses win the cow horses, certain horses win the roping. But at some time, structure plays a key role into all of our industry. And you go to breeding like to like for so long, you lose structure, you lose conformation. You look at all the horses that really do well in no matter what event they participate in, they have structure, they have conformation. They'll be full brother embryos, and one's made good and one's made bad. The one that made's good is going to beat the one that's made bad 90% of the time, I would say. And no matter what you do, you have to, at some point, it has to change at some level to get conformation, shape, and form. And that's what a halter horse is supposed to be. And is some of them things not our ideal for a useful animal? Sure. But everything is specialized now. So, but at some point there has to be an outcross put back into it. There was, I don't know what I'm trying to get. I'm going down a rabbit hole. It's probably don't need to go down, but at some point there has to be something different put into our animals to make them better than they are right now. Because the only way to be successful is to make them better.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all riding our horse today to kind of set ourselves up for tomorrow. We want to be better tomorrow than we are today. That goes beyond just any one horse, any one discipline. We've got to be kind of looking towards the horizon, towards tomorrow with what we're doing today. That's the only way to get better with it. And that includes, like you said, the outcrossing, even going a little deeper than the outcrossing, paying a little more attention to what we're doing when we breed, even within, any certain discipline. Like, we can't breed our mare to stud A just because stud A is in better programs than stud B. If stud B, structurally speaking and temperament wise and trainability, is the better option. I think, we need to explore that as much as anything. even beyond the outcrossing part, you know, we've got to be willing to really kind of sit down and look at how we're doing that to make sure we're giving ourselves the best setup for the future.
Oh, and we still have to sell them at the end of the day. We
Yep.
still have to buy. And I think our traditional breeders may be a little less than they used to be. We still have to make these people a living that support us.
Mhm.
And we still have to make it make sense at the end of the month where, okay, let's take this mare cross run this, and it's going to work or it's not. And sometimes it works great. Sometimes it don't work. And, you know, so you have to safety up and breed like to be successful and support those guys that are paying us every month. Because those good customers, you want to treat them as good as you humanly possibly can. And whether it's best for industry or taking the chance, you know, at some point we have to take a chance to do an outcross, or it's never going to work. You know, we're going to breed to set it forward.
Talking about the outcross there should be a yearling, right? Great pleasure high point to Evincible, and I think that is a yearling this year.
Gumdrops.
We're having a hard time hearing you, Lindsay.
Goody gumdrops. They bred her to Evincible. That one should be a yearling. You know, so I think that once they get that one to the show pen, and I think for the non-halter horse people, the lunge liners and the riders, if they paid attention to how much the lunge line and the riding pays out compared to super sires, NSBA, you know, a lot of those, you know, back to area. The lunge line class at Breeders' Halter Futurity doubles the payouts compared to what they make at those shows. So if people took the time to sit down and understand the programs and the money that they can make putting into these horses and maybe making some of those outcrosses, you know, I think more people would start doing it. So I'm very intrigued to see if they get the goody gumdrop Evincible baby into the show pen someday, because I think that one, if it makes it to the show pen and is talented, could help transition with some of the outcrosses.
They could make some really cool outcrosses. You know, there's a lot of opportunity there. We've just got to put the horses in the right arena and in the right hands so that they can get out there and do those things.
So
I gotta run and address something real quick with Tag. We'll be right back. Hold on.
Okay. We probably should have had Tag in front of the camera because he's kind of a celebrity.
Yes, he is. Him and his mullet.
For listeners, if you don't know who Tag is, if you are looking at Todd Grant, I think quarter horses, is it Todd Grant quarter horses? Anyway, Todd Grant show horses, perhaps. Either way, you can see their son Tag, and he's cute as a button. And he does have a mullet that's pretty famous. So what about for an owner that is showing their halter horse, maybe with a trainer or not with a trainer? What are some things that you hope the owner does or doesn't do prior to handing their horse over to you to be broke to ride?
Don't spoil it. Teach it some boundaries. That's really the big one. You know, they have to have boundaries. You guys are handling, well, I shouldn't say you guys. We are handling the halter horses way more on the ground and in hand, especially as babies. They're very impressionable at that point, and things kind of stick for very long. We can't spoil them and let them think they're big pets, because let's face it, the halter horses are bred to get big, and they get big quick. So when you take a weanling yearling and you spoil the heck out of it when it's 15 hands, as a 2-year-old when I'm trying to break it out and it's 16-3 and it wants to try and sit in my lap. That can be a problem. So yeah, just don't spoil them. Teach them boundaries.
Manners is the best thing. You know, like their flight response, I'd rather have them want to go away from me than come on top of me. You know, and I do have some that come in that, you know, they have been just pets. People love on them. They scratch their butts, which I want you to love on your horses. I mean, I really do. But I also don't want them, like when I walk in their stall and go to touch their butt, I don't want them to try to push me into the wall because that's what they've done previously to get their butt scratches. You know, when I move, I want them to move away from me. And it's always nice when they come in at that, you know, if they come here when they're babies, it's, you know, we do those things here. But if they're coming in as 2 and 3-year-olds and, you know, they don't have respect and manners, it takes longer to get them started, you know, so you get more for your money. We can take care of you better if you do some of the groundwork at home, you know, and have them respectful. They know how to lunge, they know how to tie, do all the, you know, basic baby horse stuff versus a feral one coming in that, you know, you can pet it and love on it, but the minute you ask it to do something, it throws a temper tantrum. So
it's good. Welcome back, Todd.
Well, thank you.
We gave a little sales pitch for Tag and how stinking cute he is while you were gone. So if you see a lot of people on your Facebook, it's why, because he's real cute. And we might need a hashtag for his mullet.
He just put sweet and sour sauce on his shrimp. So or sweet and sour. What do you put it on?
Like that sweet and sour candy thing. Sour candy sauce.
Sour candy sauce. Basically sugar and shit on a shrimp.
All right. So last question. What advice would you give to other trainers? You've given us a great perspective. We've talked a lot, covered a lot of ground. You've given us great perspective for owners and for other trainers about the halter horse. We've hopefully broken a lot of misconceptions and stigma about should they ride, can they ride? What would be one last piece of advice you would give to a fellow trainer who's just starting to work with or break a halter horse to ride?
For me, it's find a great owner. I mean, that for me is, if I have a great customer, I am willing to go above and beyond for them to take care of them. And, you know, like customers that raise horses and want to keep them too. You know, I think those are things that, you know, I don't think the end goal always has to be selling, but, you know, just find the great customers that support you and this vision as well. And, you know, I would like to tell, halter horses are not hard to break to ride. They're fun. You know, it's a power rush being on some of these that are 16-2 at 2 years old, and so much mass and power there, but yet they're so gentle and willing to do what you ask. Like, it's just incredible the personalities these horses have for the most part.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Trainers, just treat them like normal. Like Todd said, they're just horses. They need a job. Treat them like any other horse. Give them a chance. Don't write them off just because they're a halter horse. Owners, have realistic expectations. Don't send a halter horse off to a trainer and think that it's going to lope off like a lazy loper bred 2-year-old. You know, there are going to be differences. Have some realistic expectations of what you're going to get, and just enjoy the horse. Have fun with it. Go out, do it, give it a shot, give it a try. Chances are, you know, once they come around and you get them broke, they're going to surprise you, and they're going to be a lot more athletic and a lot more fun than you originally thought. Everybody's just got to put in the legwork. They got to give it the time that it needs to get there.
What about you, Todd?
I mean, it boils down to, having, like Lindsay said, good customers, and Jeremy said, have expectations that are realistic. And for my deal, it's been great because I've had a great support staff. I mean, I've had good friends fall in and help me, and we've achieved a lot of things that aren't supposed to happen, and things that, we've had a lot of disappointment, but everybody goes into it knowing, we're doing something that doesn't happen every day, and enjoy it. And them guys have helped me do them things with them horses we've had success with. And whether they know it or not, I appreciate everything they've done. I mean, them horses have carried the flag at opening ceremonies at a weekend horse show, and they've excelled at the highest levels. I mean, them, it's about making the horse successful and making your owners happy. And I can't be more thankful for all them guys that have helped me do what we've done with some of them horses. And it's helped me, it's helped the industry, and it's helped the horses. And that's the key to it. I mean, it opens you up to so much different stuff by trying different things. And it's been great. And some of it don't work at all. Sometimes it's just a straight up show. I mean, shit show, I guess, for lack of a better word. And sometimes it works great. But when it works, your owners and your friends, they're the happiest people in the world. Because we've done stuff with a horse that has a stigma against it, and it's been great. It's crossed bridges.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been great. And so the ones that don't work. And the ones that do, it's great for everybody.
Yeah.
I think our owners that want to try it and live the dream.
I think all of you have covered a lot of ground in helping either somebody who doesn't know anything about halter horses to somebody who thinks that they're only good for one task or discipline, to the person who's had success like all of you have in bringing a halter horse from the futurities as a baby to a successful undersaddle career. So thank you for making this investment in our listeners and our industry, quite honestly, because you've covered just about every discipline in the horse world. And yet our conversation's been rooted in halter. So thank you tremendously for the investment that you've made. So bravo. We've survived our first roundtable discussion here on Fit for Halter. Thanks to all of you for being willing and so quickly saying yes to this conversation.
Well, thank you for putting forth the effort to make it all better for all of us.
Go say hi to everyone.
You bet.
Go say hi to everyone.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for inviting me to be on here.
Say hi, Amy.
Absolutely.
Here
he comes.
Tag getting on?
Hi.
Hey, bud.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
It's time for bed.
Oh, man. Well, thanks to all of you.
Good night, Tag.
Good night, Tag.
Good night.
Oh, night.
So I'll see you in a few days.
You'll see Lindsay in a week.
Yep. I'll see you next week, buddy.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
You're welcome.
See you later, Jeremy.
Hey, if you're an amateur or a professional willing to share your story or bring content that helps us with our halter horses, you can email me at fitforhalter@gmail.com.